Yeah. Subscribe to the channel. When Alia turned and she got her passport, her parents officially allowed her to use social media. Of course, she had been hanging around them for a long time, not calling herself by her real name and not using her photos. But now she could boldly post photos of her life without hiding from her parents. Her father and mother were teachers. Therefore, she was brought up quite strictly and old-fashioned. But Alia did not think otherwise. She got used to listening to them. Parents, with all seriousness, loved their only daughter. The girl was born at their already mature age, and she was so similar to a doll with big dark brown eyes and dark chestnut hair that dad and mom called the daughter a baby for a long time. When she became a real baby. Her height was centimeter. Her relatives stopped using this cute nickname. The girl was terribly shy of her small height and even cried at night. After school, her parents advised her to go to a pedagogical college at a kindergarten. But she refused, saying she wanted to become a doctor. Mother and father talked to her about their future profession all evening. They tried to convince her that such a job takes away a lot of strength and health from a person. But Alia was against it. Oh, isn't your profession taking away a lot of strength? I remember since childhood what kind of people you came home to. In my opinion, the most harmful profession is to work with strangers. So don't even ask. Parents sighed, but calmed down. And Alia went to the medical school. Studying at the medical faculty, she thought about which specialty to choose. Maybe pediatrics? Oh no, there's also a... She discussed it, getting to the institute with a slow trolley bus. When Olga posted her photo on the net in a white, starched dress and the same snow-white hat, positive reactions poured onto her page not only from subscribers, but also from completely unfamiliar people. The photo actually turned out to be very successful. However, Alia looked more like an advertising model on it than a real doctor. Even her little sprout was not visible in the photo, as she was sitting in a computer chair. The next time she decided to add some solidity, took off the Stone Master in her hands and thick glasses on her nose. What comments did not she receive that time? I will only be treated at your place. What a cutie. And there are similar ones. Alia read and thought, these scoundrels have the same mind, and I need to study. And began to appear more and more rarely on the internet. And then she completely abandoned her page. On the third year, when she was sure that she would go to the cardiology department, a disaster happened. Suddenly, her father, a teacher at the Polytechnic Institute, mother continued to work as a teacher. But because a sick person was at home, I had to give up the class management, the additional classes that gave me an increase in salary. The family began to experience material difficulties, so my mother decided to leave work and apply for a pension. But Alia ahead of her. She took an academic vacation and went to work. My mother protested, cried, realizing how unwanted the break in school was. But my daughter was not inclined. She confirmed that there was no other way out and the situation had developed. The patient was required expensive medicines, care items, specialized food. To provide all this for the teacher's salary, the pension of the disabled, and the scholarship of a future doctor did not work out. Alia held herself in her hands so as not to injure her mother. In fact, she was very upset that she had to drop out of school. The work was found in the nearest hospital. There, the nurses were required to go to the children's department. At first, Alia was afraid that she would have to work with the children, but soon she realized that work was more connected with adults. They gave her instructions, checked the completed work, and paid the salary. The younger patients were lying in the hospital with their mothers. The older children did not pay attention to the new nurse. Today one, tomorrow another. What difference does it make who washes the floor in their room, an old woman or a little girl? Alia was terribly tired, but she considered her work a good training to get into the profession. One day, returning from a day's work, she left the elevator and noticed a narrow drawer on the floor in front of her apartment. She turned it around and sighed. There was a fresh rose in it, in a beautiful transparent wrap. She looked up to the staircase, wondering if it was the one who put the rose here. But it was quiet in the parlor, and even on the upper floors there was no movement. Alia entered the apartment, looked into the room of her father. "Dad, how are you?" He nodded, showing that everything was fine with him, and smiled slightly. He was always happy about her arrival. Alya got up on the bedside table. Then she gave him a morning injection and went to the kitchen. The rose in her hands was, to fall asleep faster, decided to scroll through the social networks. Her accounts were filled with dozens of unread comments and reactions to the photo. There were also several personal letters. In one of them, she read, "Hello, Alya. I didn't write comments under your photo because I want to express my admiration personally. Judging by your photos and the humorous text under them, you're a girl with humor. And I really appreciate this quality in people. I must admit, I would like to meet you personally, but I don't even dare to ask about it. If you don't mind, please write an answer to her." There was a postscript at the bottom. "We live in the same city, Robond." Allinson quickly turned away. She sat down and began to look at the photo of the young man who wrote the letter. If it really is him, his appearance is not very bad, Alya thought. Not handsome, but some attractive, smart eyes. A slightly smiling mouth with slightly thin lips, clean, shaved, voluminous chin. Yes, you can get carried away, she thought, and decided to scroll through his account. But the page was only available for friends. Alya snuck in, put the smartphone on the chair, and lay down again. She usually didn't have any relationship with the opposite sex. Alya was too shy about her height. She was very cute, but couldn't get rid of the thought that the normal person next to her looked too small. And she thought it was inappropriate to walk on high heels. When, after the next shift, Olga again found a blue rose under her door, she wanted to write immediately, "This mysterious Robondo," and make a confession that he brings roses. But what if it's not him? Distract him in vain. Why is he behaving so strangely? He insists that I answer the letter, and he closed his profile. How do I find out about him at least something before agreeing to a correspondence? Alya again got into the social network. The messages from other users were not even worth attention. Most of them were written illiterate, some with an unorthodox vocabulary. She blocked everyone who wrote her nasty stuff. And Robondo finally agreed. The response in the form of a heart came immediately. Is he always online, or what? Alya thought, and began to read information about him. Now I understand. An IT specialist, years old, lives and really lives in her city. Well, if everything is written, it's true. She went to the photos. Well, yes, he is everywhere. In their city park, in the student cafe, outside the city. She immediately recognized him in a group of people. Often, there was a little boy next to him in the photo. Only for some reason, either from behind or from the side. So Alya didn't manage to look at the baby. I wonder if this is his brother, or maybe his son, she thought. A photo of someone else's fate. Suddenly, she saw that a short letter came from Robondo. Thank you for the friendship. With 2 smiles. Alya smiled. Well, what? 3 words and that's it. Well, how to answer him, and how to find out if he brings me roses. She was angry, and wrote in response. Together, and left the network. With another shift, Olga left earlier. To catch a strange guard at the crime scene. She asked the maid to help her out, promising to thank her in a similar way, and rushed home. Entering the parlor, she ran into a young boy in a floral uniform, delivering flowers. She blocked the way for him. Did you bring flowers to the TH apartment? The boy nodded firmly. And who gave them to you? She asked impatiently. We get the goods with the address from the florist manager and only divorce, but we don't communicate with the customers. I see. Alya was disappointed. Where can I see the manager? Please come to the office. The guy gave her a leaflet. Alya left the elevator, and then her mother appeared from the apartment. She was going to work. Rose again. She smiled. Oh, I don't know how you like it, but I already like your fan. So modest. So romantic. Alya, why are you so early? I wanted to catch this aerator, but he turns out to be a delivery man. Yeah, well, I think he'll soon let me know, Mom said. He can't hide forever. Oh, I don't know. I'm so tired. Not even up to the fans. Alya, poor thing. Maybe you'll get back in the institute. Huh? Well, somehow you'll get out. What's wrong with you, Mom? You don't feel sorry for yourself either. You work late. And the rehearsal again. Now I'll take a nap and immediately cheer up. She smiled, and as she entered the house, waved her hand to her mother. The idea of visiting Flora's office and asking about the customer of flowers did not seem to be a good idea. She will not explain anything. Let everything go its own way, and she needs to sleep. Meanwhile, a boy arrived in the department where Olga worked. Slavik Bondarev, with very high temperature. In the first days and nights, he wandered and called his mother, but his mother was not there. The boy was years old. At this age, children usually stay in the hospital alone. When Alia took over, the little patient was already a little easier, and he fell asleep after several sleepless nights. She immediately paid attention to the new child, who lay face to the wall and heard a little crack. There was something familiar in his profile, but Alia did not dig into the memory, but took a bath. Then she opened the window and began to wait for the smell of the washing agent to come out of the room. Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her back. "Hello." Slavik woke up. He sat on the bed and, without breaking away, looked at her. Then he asked, "Are you a new nurse?" "No, I'm a nurse," Alia replied. "What does a nurse mean?" Slavik asked. "Does that mean that I support sanitary cleanliness in the department?" She explained seriously. Olga was surprised. In a few months of work, it was the first child who greeted her and spoke. And most importantly, she was pleased with this communication. The ward finally went through the wind. Alia closed the window and headed to the exit. "And when you come again?" the baby asked again. "In the evening. I promise you that you will eat well and drink the medicine." "I promise," said the boy and lay down again. Alia went out into the corridor, sighing. "Poor, so weak. Apparently, he will have to be with us for a long time." During the day, a hospital infection was detected in the department and quarantine was announced. Visitors were prohibited from entering the ward, and the first-story sanitariums were carried out. In the evening, Alia, as promised, looked into Slavik's room. There were 2 more children lying there. Tomorrow they were to be discharged, and Slava was still lying on the bed, facing the wall. "What's wrong with you? You haven't been lying down all day. You haven't eaten anything. I want to go home," she said in a pleading voice. "Dad misses me there." "Well, Slavka, if you want to get home as soon as possible, you need to get well as soon as possible. And how will you get out if you don't eat anything?" "So, he doesn't heal?" The boy turned his back and looked at her in the eye, and suddenly said, "And my dad has your photos. Do you know him?" "No. How can I know your dad?" Alia was surprised. "I have no idea where he got my photos from. He is very kind and smart." The baby proudly said, "He will come in the evening. You will see for yourself." Alia looked at the patient's map and suddenly asked, "Your father's name is Roman?" "Bondarev Roman Mihailovich," the baby answered. "He's a programmer." "Well, that's it, got it," she thought. Roman Bondarev comes out, and there is the same Robin, who writes to me on the social network, and the boy in the photos. Well, here he is, Slavik, his son. Interesting story, especially if they have a mother. Alia asked carefully, "And who does your mother work for?" The boy's eyes were filled with tears. "Mom worked at a barber shop." He barely spoke out that word. "Dad used to wear a beard and go to see his mom. And then Mom didn't come. Dad took off his beard and said it's better if Mom doesn't get it." Alia didn't know what to say. In front of her was a child, who apparently had not been without his mom for so long, but bravely tells about her. Just like an adult, unwillingly, she stretched her hand to the boy's head and stroked him on the hair. Slavik grabbed her hand and pressed it against his cheek. She was no longer hot. The heat finally passed. Olga decided to wait for Roman, but instead of him, an elderly nurse from the first floor entered the ward. "Who is Bondarev here?" she asked. "A transmission from the Pope." Alia showed Slavik, to which the attendant brought a thermometer. The nurse put a bag on the bedside table. She took out fruits, sour milk desserts, and a plastic jar with broth. "So, and this is for him," she said, taking out 2 jars with leftovers from the bedside table and leaving the ward. The attendant yelled after her, "Tell him that the boy's temperature is normal." Alia decided to follow Bondarev. She went downstairs. She grabbed her boots and left the hospital through the service entrance. It was already dark outside, but Alia noticed how the male figure was moving away from the window of the transfer room and heading towards the hospital parking lot. The girl, hiding behind the decorative bushes, watched. The man sat in a black Audi, and then she fainted. He turned on the music in the living room. Not loud, but still pretty cheerful. And he didn't look like a widow at all. The car drove away, and Alia was back to work. In the morning, she found a rose-tinted and sent her a welcome smile. Alia wrote, "Hello, Roman. I don't know what your wise plan is, but I wouldn't want to participate in your intrigues. I work as a nurse in the children's department, and yesterday I met your son. He suffers a lot from his mother. What can I say about you? Please explain or stop writing to me." Robin helped. It was clear that he had read the message, but did not hurry to answer. Probably comes up with how to get out, she thought. Alia was already going to turn off the smartphone when suddenly a call was given. She ran out to the kitchen and closed the door. "I'm listening," she said. "Hello, Olga." Roman greeted with a soft voice. "I understand that he doesn't look like a widow at all, but I'm not a widow. Slavik's mother left us more than a year ago, leaving a farewell note on the table. She, you see, fell in love with another and cannot live in deception. Therefore, she leaves Slavik to me and does not demand anything from me. What generosity! And anyway, she leaves the country forever. When I read this note, I was just not feeling well for several days. I took Slavka to the kindergarten and gave her tears of will. The neighbors probably thought that I had drunk too much. I was so fluffy. But then, I felt like I was being turned on by some kind of motor. I shaved my beard, cut my hair short, started a social network account. I didn't think about it before. And after my wife left, I found this activity very useful. Distant communication, without any obligations and conditions. I even found single men, the same men with children. They helped me to get a divorce and get the status of a lonely father. Of course, there was no talk about the elements. My mother really left the country. But Slavka, and I don't need it. The only thing that's bad is that he misses his mother very much. He doesn't understand why she didn't become a mother. I said that I was carried away by a strong hurricane into a magical country. Well, like in a fairy tale. But it seems he doesn't believe me. Alia listened and wiped her tears. How could you do that to a child? And the husband, apparently, did not deserve such betrayal. However, the other person's soul is dark. But how did I end up in this story? Alia thought. And who gives me roses? He continued. When I came across your page, I immediately liked you. Samp, Bunivod. You are so miniature. I noticed that you do not sit in the network for days. If you disappear for a long time, then you are a busy and versatile person. Then I made a geolocation of your photos, made sure that we live in the same city, and decided to meet. But you disappeared. You did not answer my message. Then I printed out your photos, sorry, but they are in open access, and went to the medical institute. There, I found your address and the current place of work. You will not believe. I still haven't seen your house. I just come to the flower salon, order a rose, and ask to be taken to such and such address at such and such time. Well, yes, I learned the schedule of the shift. I'm trying to paint your working days. And I'm very glad that you met Slavik. Now I can ask you to meet me. Alia, barely holding back, just said, "Thank you. Of course, let's meet." They agreed that he would come to the house just to see her, because both of them were waiting for their business. When Romana left the car, Alia was unwillingly on the ground. He was a little taller than average. Seeing her movements, he smiled, came up and said, "I don't have to be shy. You are beautiful." In the evening, Alia, overflowing with emotions, told his mother about his fans. She was a little upset at first. Father's lonely? I don't think it's a good option for serious relationships. Mom, what are you doing? Why? Well, why? You're afraid of children like fire. What are you? Do you imagine yourself as a mother? Mom, Slavka is a wonderful child. I almost became friends with him. I'm sure we'll get along with him. Oh, I don't know. The mother shook her head. You are still young. You could find yourself someone without a dark past. I don't need any of that. I was already used to them, both of them. Mom gave up. In the end, she saw for herself how hard it was for her daughter. But did she really deserve happiness? Slavik was discharged from the hospital in 2 weeks. While he was sick, they became friends with Alia as brothers and sisters. They talked with pleasure, dreamed, joked. And Roma, after each shift, met Alia at the service exit, gave flowers, and took him home. She introduced him to his mother and father, who greeted and smiled at the guest. Then Roman and Alya signed, having a small holiday in the family circle. The father could already sit in a chair and exchange with his relatives in short phrases. Roman hired a day seat for his father, and Alya convinced him to return to the institute. Life improved. Alya was no longer shy of her small height, because this was what Roman convinced her of. And Slavic finally stopped crying about the hurricane that had taken her away from his mother. After all, soon, his father and mother Alya gave him a sister, Elisa. If you like the story, I hope you will not be difficult to support me with the thumb up button. Thank you.